Happy New Year, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives and the first show of our new series for 2025, McDuff and Marcia.
Good
Marcia,
morning.
Marcia, good morning.
Good morning. Glad to be here. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, everybody. Hello, Holy News is here, and he says, Happy New Year, everybody. Hello, everybody. And yeah, I can see a lot of hope this year. I have a number of ideas about where that hope can come from, and maybe we'll
Hmm,
share some of that this
that sounds
morning.
interesting.
And how about you, Marcia? Anything on your mind you'd like to be sure and cover before we run out of our little time here this morning?
Nothing comes to mind other than first show of the new year, and like you, I'm feeling optimistic about where we're all headed.
Well, this week I've had a number of things that just crossed my eyes, and it made me feel like a lot of stuff is moving. There's a lot of moving parts here. Things are getting revealed that have never been revealed before, and there's a lot of pressure. There's going to be a lot of pressure on President Trump to reveal the JFK files,
Mm-hmm.
and I will make another effort to see if I can FOIA the McDuff files. So that's going to be interesting to see if new personnel may be at the top, and perhaps some appropriate lobbying can open up those things which are so important to me.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah,
It
it
would
would be.
just be amazing. And I'm amazed at how many people reference that. And you get into these casual conversations about the new administration, about where we're headed, the new year. I'm the other day at the post office, our postmaster woman, I don't know, I don't like postmisters, but anyway, the woman who runs our post office,
Yeah.
she and I were having a little chat, and that was one of the first things she said was looking forward to maybe finding out the truth about JFK. A lot of people have that on their minds as we get ready to welcome a renewed administration.
Yes. And there's a lot of talk about UFOs now, and of course the drones and the orbs and things.
And there's a
Uh,
different word for it, and we
yeah,
actually
yeah,
came up last week, and I've already forgotten it.
yeah. It's anyway. It's a unidentified flying object. Or no, that's UFO. It's somebody will put it in the chat.
Yes, please remind us what the new UFO is.
Well, it's intended.
UAP.
These um, sightings all over the country are intended to make us uncertain, to kind of shake us up, and it's possible that they may pull the old alien trick out of a hat. Where they've got some secret technology that's going to make us honestly believe that the aliens are here and they're taking over, but it'll be them, behind the scenes, fooling us with holograms and laser beams and God knows what from Elon Musk's satellites.
Yeah, yeah, but who knows? Maybe the UFOs are coming, or
We'll find out.
whatever they are.
Well,
I can Google it.
you mentioned something that's been interesting to me a little bit earlier this morning, and that is the interesting question, or the interesting decision, I guess, to change the name of one of our local schools,
Mm-hmm.
a public school
Mm-hmm.
named after a hero of the Revolutionary War.
Right.
His name is General Smallwood. And about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I heard that there is, I don't, is it the school board or some,
Yes,
it's
the
the
school
school
board
board
has voted.
has voted. Tell the story then as you understand it.
The school board has voted. The local school board here in the county in which we live has voted to change the name of General Smallwood Middle School, I think it is, I don't know that they've come up with a name yet, but the reason they're changing the name is because General Smallwood owned slaves, as did many, many heroes of the Revolution, as did a number of our founding fathers. But the locals here believe that that is cause to take his name off the middle school. And they are completely ignoring the fact that the man was a patriot. I can understand the argument to take the name, to take Confederate names off of army bases, schools, whatever. I can understand the argument to take down statues of Confederate. Doesn't mean that I'm going to advocate for it, but I do understand that argument. But this man was not a Confederate. He was an American patriot who contributed to the establishment of the United States of America. And they're going to take his name off the school because he owned slaves. Does that mean that anything named Washington, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, are we going to take those names off of everything, including the name of our national capital? It's insane.
But it's not insane. There's enough people that are in favor of it for our actual school board of Charles County, Maryland, to.
Yes. And I don't know how many members are on the school board, but only one member voted against it.
That just strikes me so political. It's just it
is
the idea, it just blowing it up to a larger question is, to me, the rights of, well, it's hard to say, but the recognition of a group such as African Americans who have a heritage of enslavement is a very important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And to honor them and their ancestors respectfully is a very important thing. But history is so crucial to our survival as a free country that those patriots hoped to create.
Yes.
That we can't change history in order to satisfy the current exacerbation of feelings that I think in many cases is political, in order to establish a group cause against a certain candidate, such as Orange Man Trump, for instance. And the creation of all of division of our population into groups, like you've seen the bumper sticker that says coexist, and it has the Islamic moon and the Jadic star and the Christian cross and a number of other symbols there. That is, I like that. I like the idea of yeah, let's all coexist, but I don't like to coexist as a number of groups, because that goes back to the machinations of imperial politics to keep the serfs divided into groups, and then all you have to do is negotiate with the group.
Right.
So you have a particular leader that maybe he doesn't mind getting a free trip to somewhere and a nice limousine ride to this and that, and you can make a deal, and the whole group then will go along with that because of the charisma of that leader in that group. And I just see that happening all over the world. So taking the just genuine, honest need that we have to recognize slavery and the ancestors of the people who were enslaved, and the effect that that has on our present population, simply by taking General Smallwood's name off of a public school, is that doesn't fix anything. As a
No.
matter of fact, it exacerbates. And in fact, I think that is really what's behind it, is to keep us divided.
Well, you know, race is one of those groups that was created by people. There is really no such thing as race. There is no genetic marker for race. There are genetic indications of geography. You can look at somebody's DNA and say their ancestors likely came from this part of the world, be it Asia or Africa or Europe or the Americas, but there are no genetic markers for race. Race is something that we made up and we continue to redefine. For many years, Hispanic was a race, which makes no sense whatsoever because Hispanic, the word itself comes from Spain. So is everybody from Spain a different race? Well, how could that be? Because they're European. But, and at some point, somebody figured that out. And the census no longer treats Hispanic as a race. It's a separate category. You choose your race, and then you say whether or not you are Hispanic. So you can be Black and Hispanic, or white and Hispanic, or Native American and Hispanic, which is probably most often the case, though I don't know that for sure. But it's all made up. And then we go along and go, okay, Hispanic was a race, but now it's not a race. And I think just recently I read that Middle Eastern is now going to be considered a different race, because for a long time, Middle Eastern people were considered white. Pakistanis were considered white. Well, now we're going to move Middle Eastern into a different category. But it's all subjective, based on somebody somewhere, their decision to, this is how I'm going to define race, because there is no actual physical thing called race. So other than the physical characteristics. So this business of dividing the Black and the white population in our community, I think you're right. It's a good point that maybe this is being done on purpose. You know, we live in a community that is now majority African American. It only became that, about maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago, but we've been inching up. I think in the year 2000, our population was about 25% African American. So in the last 25 years, or 20 years actually, we became majority African American. We're also the wealthiest majority of African American county in the country. But that creates some political challenges, I would say, that a lot of people are pandering to.
William Smallwood, Major General in the Revolutionary War and a patriot, born 1732, same year as George Washington. Interesting. Died February 14th, 1792. A prominent Maryland planter, soldier, and politician, William Smallwood was an American patriot. I wanted to get to the Battle of White Plains,
Right.
which he commanded men at the Battle of White Plains, for which his efforts were recognized, and he was promoted to brigadier general. During the Philadelphia campaign, he served under Washington, and his regiment fought with distinction at Germantown. He fought at Camden, South Carolina, under Gates. There, his brigade.
By the way, he was wounded twice at the Battle of White Plains and continued to fight with his wounds. Sorry, go ahead.
And that's it. I just wanted to give a little bit of credit to one of the men that did the fighting to get us free of the empire, and that pulls up our conversation full circle, because it is the empire that creates race. You know,
Right.
And I was just reading yesterday. It's just funny. It struck me. An account of the Bay of Pigs, and it's an interview by Bill Moyers, and it's really really good. And he's talking to Richard Bissell.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, Richard Bissell, and he says, well, how are you going to pull this off? How could you keep it from being an American operation? And Bissell says, oh, we planned it very very carefully. There wasn't going to be a white face on the beach. In other words, he's saying all these Cubans, these are not white. These
Right.
there's Americans are white, Cubans are something else,
Exactly.
And this is Richard Bissell, the
Oh, but you know what? I have cousins who do not define themselves as white. My cousin who recently came to visit, as a matter of fact, excuse me, she and I were having a conversation, and she said something about, you and I can pass for white. I was stunned because I don't pass for white. I am white.
It's
Our
interesting that
ancestors are Spanish. But she has been brainwashed, as have many of my cousins, that Hispanics are not white.
and that's again, this is what's called identity politics.
Right.
And this identity politics is exactly, what they do. They being the people behind the scenes that ultimately answer to the big pile of money, that lives in the city of London or Switzerland or under the Antarctic or wherever it is, but is so powerful that it can out-finance anybody at any time they need to.
Mm-hmm.
So this powerful empire has been fighting to squash the American Revolution ever since it happened, and it's still going on. And so when you wonder why are so many things going wrong in America, maybe it's that same empire that we fought so hard to get away from back in the founding fathers' day, when yes, slavery was common. And if you want to go into what were the alternatives to slavery, how could you have possibly built a city, a town, a county, a civilization without slavery before the Industrial Revolution? I'd love to hear the answer. But it did exist. It is the natural state of mankind throughout history. Probably 90% of the people that have ever lived have been slaves. And that is another aspect of it that we just don't talk about in America, because we are all, so comfortable in our American dream.
Right. And again, I think it's just there to divide us, to put us in different categories so that we don't empathize or connect with each other. Because heaven forbid, if we should think of ourselves as all one, then we would be more powerful.
Brightmore, hello, Happy New Year. Federal Appeals Court has struck down Biden's net neutrality rules. I haven't followed that. Have you, Marcia? Okay.
I mean, I know years back I followed it, but I haven't. I'm having a terrible time with my throat. Sorry about this.
Unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Thank you. UAP. I should write that down.
All right.
I think all of this moving around of things that we have been doing the last few days has kicked up some dust.
Yeah, you want to tell them why?
No.
Okay. Let's just say we're going to have a little work done.
We're getting some work done at the house. I think eventually there will be a little video.
Yes, Holy News, I agree with you on that. Brightmore, 3 days until January 6th vote certification. Boy, January 6th of 2021. Wow.
I remember it well.
Yeah. I mean, we were at the charrette house.
You were. I was working that day.
Oh, you were working. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Man, that was back when you used to have to earn.
And I had a job.
Yeah.
But I was working from home at
Okay.
that point because, everybody was working from home in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
And I was working from home, and I remember Actually, I remember I was on a Zoom meeting with some other economic development officials from around the state. We had a regular Wednesday Zoom call that we would touch base with each other and talk about what was going on in our communities. And one of them said, C-SPAN or CNN or somebody is reporting this activity on the Capitol steps. So once the call was over, I remember I tuned in to C-SPAN to see what I could find out, because they were the only one with going on with live coverage. And it was like there was nothing going on. They were showing these camera shots of these empty Capitol steps. And so I remember I called you over at the Charette house because you were over there with Andy.
Yeah.
And everybody else had gone to the Capitol.
Yeah.
And you guys were trying to gather information about what was going on up there.
Andy DeBala, our good friend, who's moved down to Texas now, but he's always in my heart because of all the help he gave us when I was writing my book, getting it published on time on June the 6th of 2021, and just a terrific guy all around. And so Andy and I stayed in the Charette house while the rest of the gang went down to the Capitol with George Webb and to see what was going on. And well, the rest is history. We've got the videotape. So
exactly.
Yeah. And YouTube didn't get to snatch that one. I still got it.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah. Yeah. What a bizarre day that was.
So I'm kind of thinking it's going to go smoothly. I haven't heard anybody really saying there's any threats, except for these crazy terrorist things that just happened. The blown up car and the thing with the Ford truck in New Orleans. And, but are a few terrorist attacks going to scare the Congress enough to not certify the election?
Oh, I'm sure that the security is going to be ridiculous. I don't know if they have barricades up or not, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Well, as long as the Democrats, well, they don't have control of the Congress anymore, though, do they?
Up until no, they do until no, not the House.
Yeah, not the House.
Yeah.
So anyway, maybe they can't put up their barbed wire chain link fences like they want to. Boy, that was so disgusting to see the People's House, the Congress of the United States, surrounded with chain link fence and security guards and military checkpoints and guys walking around in camouflage with big guns, and it was disgusting. It's like the end of our republic rolling right in front of our eyes on June the 6th.
Well, 2021. I was reading the Sugar Bowl, they postponed it for a day after the attack in New Orleans. And then one of the local officials said something about the fact that the security at the Sugar Bowl would be the best security you're ever going to see because they feared another attack. And I don't know. These attacks, I don't know what to make of them because they're saying that the attacks are not related, but yet there's an awful lot of similarity between a
lot of similarity that's just fortunately they do have local sheriffs in each case, and that's one of the bastions of American freedom is the sheriff, is that in a local situation, a county, a town, the sheriff is the primary authority for security of that area, not the FBI, not the military, not the federal government, but the sheriff. And that is one of the securities that we have, as long as we're cognizant of the fact that, your citizens have to keep control of the sheriff. But that's the way it's supposed to work. And these two sheriffs both pointed out, this is really strange, look at these coincidences. And
they even used the same app to rent their vehicles.
And they both have ties to Fort Bragg, and one of them a long history with
whatever Fort Bragg is called now, though.
Fort Liberty.
Fort Liberty.
Yeah, we're now free from the evil Braxton Bragg and his Confederate minions.
Right. Speaking of which. Yeah, they both rented their vehicles. They're both
Yeah,
Army veterans. The one was active still.
reminds me of Timothy McVeigh too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move along here. Uh, Politics based is extremely fungible. Ethics shared is a delicate phenomenon. Well, yeah. Control by proxy. Yeah. You know, speaking of proxies, George Webb's latest research into the uh, apparent murder called a suicide
Mm-hmm.
of uh, I'm sorry, I won't remember his name. Sujit Banj.
I've only seen it written. I don't even, and I couldn't write it again.
Yeah, we need to look it up though.
Yeah.
But anyway, that gentleman that was killed, and George Webb's Substack is covering it very, very intently, and I think it's a very important story um, because of the question of AI and the development of AI generally. There was a program called Open AI that sounds great because it sounds like everybody could use it. It would be open, but it turns out that the people that have control over the stock itself has started to do things that alerted this man that perhaps they're going to take it private. And then there's all of the question of all the to do an AI, you have to have access to all the information, and then you get into the copyrights and the patents that are going to be violated if you just cite something. And so there's a real power struggle going on right now, and this
Mm-hmm.
man may have been killed as a part of that power struggle. Go ahead.
Suchir Balaji. Now I don't know if my pronunciation is right.
It's okay.
SUCHIR BALAJI. Suchir Balaji.
So our rights to the open internet and our rights to use our brains to interact with AI are at stake in this investigation. And I think that's a very big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But control by proxy. So this was the story I wanted to get to that comes from the same source. And that is that to get a hold of a big database, okay, if you are the company that's running a startup AI, okay, and you want to make sure you got all of the medical information that you can, so that if people ask you questions about, what does this mean or that mean, then you have a huge database of medical reports that you can read instantly with your computer mind and come up with a diagnosis and a treatment plan and spit it out. But you have to have the data first. You have to get all the hospitals and all of the universities and all of the federal studies, and then you have to put it all together onto your database so that you can then assert that you really do know all there is to know about whatever the issue is in medicine. But how do you get the databases? And this is what George is pointing out, is that organized crime can steal the database and then kind of launder the ownership enough so that the AI startup people can then go and buy it from the organized crime syndicate with the title washed so that it doesn't look like you're buying it from organized crime, but you buy it. And that's just a question of how much can the criminals get for their ill-gotten goods.
Mm-hmm.
And that model apparently works because what George said is that it's not a crime to steal stolen data from somebody else's database.
Wait, if I steal it and you steal it
no,
from me.
No, if I buy it from you, I'm sorry.
But if I steal it and you buy it from me.
And I don't know that you got it from the criminal.
So then you have not committed a crime.
Right.
But can you still use it once it's been exposed?
Well, that's the question, and I think George is exposing that right now. So, you know, that I think is one of the most important investigations going on right now, and at least domestically. Um, well, then there's UFOs. I
You mean
mean,
in terms of investigation?
yeah, there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, uh, let's move
And
along
didn't we
here.
agree we were going to call it what? UAP
UAP, UAPs.
or oops?
Brightmore says the global attack on nationalism is such an attack. Yeah, the attack on nationalism, of course. I think what he's referring to is our identity politics. That identity politics does break down uh, nationalism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Because we're not all Americans. We're African Americans. We're white Americans.
Yeah.
We're Native Americans. We're Hispanic Americans. We put all these labels. We're taught to label ourselves. We're gay, we're straight, we're bi, we're whatever. We are Episcopalian, we're Catholic, we're Protestant, we're Presbyterian, we're Lutheran, we're Jewish, we're Hindu, we're Muslim. All of these labels.
We're Satanists, man. Are you kidding? Satanism, that's the way to go.
Whatever. The point is, labels. We are,
yeah. Label. And let's get back to happiness. Happy to be here, says Citizen M. Thank you so much for getting us back to thinking about good things. Yeah, I am excited about the advances in fighting cancer. I'm excited about my own participation in this fight. And I am excited about the possibility of change on a major, in a major way, when people have the information about nutrition and health that has been withheld from us, in favor of, sugar and all of the bad commodities that make so much money for the elites.
It crossed my mind this morning when I saw the news that the Surgeon General wants to label alcohol with, alcohol consumption of alcohol causes cancer, and I'm thinking to myself, how is the government going to get around the powerful alcohol lobby? The tobacco lobby fought it for many, many, many years. When did we start labeling tobacco products? Was it in the 80s?
But
and it was in the 60s that the Surgeon General, early 60s, that the Surgeon General said smoking causes cancer. But yet it took 20 years to get the packaging labeled because the big tobacco companies fought it as best they could until they couldn't fight it any longer. So we'll see what the alcohol companies do.
Boy, the history of alcohol in the 20th century is another just awesome, amazing story with the involvement of British intelligence and the involvement of the British royals that is all hidden. But the manipulation of our economy by use of prohibition was a huge, huge financial success for the people that ran the scam. And it's just so obvious when you are able to look back at it that what they did was Britain, of course, was able to control Canada at the time in the 19 teens. And so they did a prohibition in Canada. And that prohibition in Canada established the first rum running and the illegal importation of alcohol across national lines, like from America into Canada. And then one day they flipped it. They said, okay, now it's legal to drink in Canada. It's no longer prohibited in Canada, but it's now prohibited in the United States. Well, they already had set up the bootlegging rings. They already had the transportation, and the Fisher Gang and the Purple Gang and in the Great Lakes and all this craziness off of Rhode Island and Block Island and all of the the schemes were already in place, and then they multiplied it to the whole United States. And boy, did people make money off of prohibition and the manipulation of our population by being basically addicted to alcohol en masse. I'm not saying all of our individuals were, but the whole country, without alcohol, especially New England, we just no, we're not going without it. So let's make some speakeasies and let's do some illegal activity and let's set up some rat lines where we can start trafficking alcohol. And then guess what comes next? Heroin and opiates, and it just gets worse and worse from there. And it all goes back to the elites. That's all I'm saying.
It still goes on in Maryland because alcohol sales are the liquor licenses are so restricted in the state of Maryland that the only place you can sell alcohol is at a liquor store. You can't sell it in a grocery store. You can't sell it at the CVS like they do in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
You can only buy beer and wine at a liquor store. And the liquor store lobby is very, very powerful. And there every year when the Maryland legislative session begins, there is talk of, are we going to introduce laws to change that? And it doesn't get changed because these liquor store owners, many of whom are based in, guess where? Baltimore. And those Baltimore politicians are very, very powerful, and they refuse to give up their share of liquor sales to the grocery stores, to the Giants and Safeways and Harris Teeters.
Well, from what we know about Nancy Pelosi now, maybe we should just write her a letter and she could get in touch with some people and maybe, bada bing, bada boom.
Yes.
Good old Baltimore, That's my $1 million saying. I don't know why I haven't been able to cash in on it, but it's a good motto. There's no more like Baltimore. Isn't that great?
Yeah, you told it to me when we were dating a long time ago.
I know, but
back then I thought it was fabulous.
It is fabulous. Okay, I own it, guys. Forget about it, okay? It's mine.
Yeah, we're going to start seeing ads on the TV soon. There's no more like Baltimore.
Oh, no. The cat's out of the bag.
That's right.
Oh, boy. Okay, let's... I've lost my place here in the chat, so...
And I'm just reminding myself, unidentified anomalous phenomena. Unidentified anomalous phenomena. All right, sorry.
Jairamili says...
I can't figure out if that's a guinea pig or a cat. But anyway.
Good question. I think I won't venture. I don't want to offend anybody. There is no tacit understanding of the modern social contract. Things are changing so quickly and foundational truths are constantly challenged or denied. It's a new pace of living. Yeah, they do. Part of the program, as I understand it, is to put accelerating change so that people are never, ever comfortable with the status quo. To take away our understanding of how society works, where my place is in society, who I can trust, all of the sinews of a body politic are being changed constantly with the insertion of new rules, new issues,
new ways of doing things,
and COVID and black swan events and terrorism, right. And things that cause us to not know what to think.
Well, young people are okay with it. Young people have grown up with all of this change, and in fact, young people, I think, get a little bit bored. They get a little bit tuned out when things stay the same. Whereas our generation, things were pretty much the same for many, many decades. And suddenly we are tossed into this world where things are changing constantly. And it's hard to keep up with. And I think that there are many who have been left behind who feel irrelevant because they can't keep up with all the change. There are some of us from our generation who have been able to more or less keep up with the change, but there are things going on in this world that I don't understand and I don't get because it has changed so much from the way it was when I was a kid.
Well, I remember when you forced me to have an iPhone. I was a flip phone guy, and I was very happy
Yes.
with my flip phone.
Yeah.
I was not happy with the addition of text messages to my flip phone because that made me have to learn how to do that. And I didn't want to learn how to do anything. I just want to say hello, thank you, goodbye, done, over. Don't have to punch any letters, nothing. It's a nice, simple phone to carry around with me. But no, got to have a camera. Gotta
have all these apps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to be connected to iTunes. You got to get connected. And so I got connected, but actually I'm grateful that you did that because if I hadn't jumped in right then, I might never have done it. And at this point, I'm very satisfied that I can manage an iPhone and a few other things, although the challenges are always there when I try to do something new. But the things that we're able to do now are because I did overcome that learning curve in my 60s,
Mhm.
and yeah. So I'm happy for that. Another thing to be happy about.
That's right. I think you and I do pretty good with the technology. We keep up. I mean, look at you live streaming.
Yeah, man. 5 different channels all at once.
That's right. And all you folks out there that we're connected to.
Oh, Road Warriors throws in some new information here. Identity politics is divide and rule. Yeah, that's right. First used by Philip of Macedon. I guess that was Alexander's daddy. He went on to be a great, you know,
We get it.
Alexander.
The Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it.
He was great.
Yeah.
But, it's like a lot of things, it's a glorious life, but a very short one. Brightmore, hello. Large cache of explosives weapons found in Virginia. I don't know about this.
Yeah, I did. You know what? I didn't read the story. I saw a headline.
Explosives involved in Vegas Tesla attack and the ISIS newbie in the New Orleans truck attack. Well, okay. Interesting leads.
Mm-hmm. Though I read that the explosives used in the Tesla attack were not powerful explosives. They were fireworks.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't like what Timothy McVeigh did. And, because apparently Elon Musk is taking a lot of credit for his vehicle being so strong that it contained the explosion. Yeah. And the explosion went up instead of out.
Yeah.
But then I read that it wasn't that strong, the explosives, and it probably same thing would have resulted from any vehicle. Who knows? When you read this stuff, you never know what's true and who to believe and who not to believe.
So where'd you read it?
Washington Post.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Oh, you can always trust the media, guys. Don't worry. Just whatever they say. Let's see.
Yeah, I love the Washington Post for its headlines, and very often I just read the headlines just to see what they're spinning. And one of the headlines about the New Orleans attack was to tug at our heartstrings about the people who were killed. And the headline, the subhead said, "Doting mother and former Princeton football player among the killed." And I'm thinking, doting mother, what mother isn't doting? And, All-American hero, former Princeton football player. Everybody who's killed has value, but we're going to pick out these ones that tug at the heartstrings. Washington Post. Anyway.
The media is building a case for bombing the terrorists in Iran. Well, there is that. There is the ongoing concern that I have that President Trump is going to just say, okay, Netanyahu, go ahead, bomb Iran and take it over and, turn the entire Middle East into greater Israel. That seems to be the agenda, and I don't see Trump doing anything to stop it. Bomb Iran. That's what John McCain said.
It's actually just a plot for the Beach Boys to get some royalty music when people start making their satire songs.
I think it's worse than that, but let's see.
Well, everything that's going on over there. The United States is bombing Yemen. Are we at war with Yemen?
Yeah, we are, apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
Well, that's the other trouble. The other problem with our so-called republic is that we don't obey the rules in the Constitution about war.
Right.
You're either going to war or you're not going to war. It's one thing or another. And this has been the story of our lives and the terrible result of the creation of the National Security Agency and the CIA in 1947, and then Truman allowing the Dulles brothers to run amok with secret operations and overthrows and genocides and murders and just takeovers for the benefit of whom? For the benefit of their clients at Sullivan and Cromwell, not for the benefit of the United States, because honestly, we wouldn't want it done. If they ask us, the people through our people's house, the Congress, which is where the Constitution places the right to declare war. If we had been asked, we'd have probably said, no, why don't you just work it out somehow? We don't need to go to war over this.
Right.
What's happened to diplomacy? Are you guys have no tools in your toolbox other than war? Because that's what it looks like. And because they don't want to have to go through the process of showing the Congress what they really want to do. And they've got this procedure that was set up in 1947 that they're still taking advantage of, that now we still are completely frustrated as to citizens trying to exert our rights under the Constitution to decide whether we A, are at war, or B, are at peace. And I want to be at peace, but although nobody's declared war, we're at war, guys. We are at war all over the world.
And it's easy for us because we don't have to live with the consequences of war day after day after day. We don't have bombs dropping in our communities. We don't have buildings being destroyed and people being killed. It's not our sons and daughters that are coming home in a box.
Hello, Denise. Denise Belby says, please talk about continuity of government. Well, continuity of government is Raven Rock, is up in Western Maryland, where they have the caves for the continuity of government. Dick Cheney, and that was when Dick Cheney got to be the president. For a little bitty while George W. Bush was tucked away in an airplane flying off to Nebraska. Well, guess who got to be the president for a little while was Dick Cheney, the vice president. And he set in motion the continuity of government procedure. And that thing is still on the books. And it is, it is a time bomb that if those guys want to, they can pull a continuity of government based upon some act against the United States that they might even create as a false flag and impose martial law. And, are they not ready for martial law? When I moved here to Charles County 20 years ago, we didn't have a huge military uh, uh, not base, but what do you call it? Where all of those military trucks are parked over there on
Armory.
301, an armory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there was a little building there that was an old armory building, I guess.
No,
But
that's
this
all brand new.
but this is acres and acres, and what's there but parked there but military vehicles, just the kind of thing that you would need to go around and pick up everybody's guns and impose martial law.
And do you know why it's there?
I'm just guessing why, because they want to be prepared in case they decide to declare martial law.
Well, yeah.
But what do you think? What is the real
Well,
story?
I happen to have some insight because when I was working,
Yeah,
I was involved in that project.
yeah.
That came through our office,
Okay.
and it was championed by Congressman Hoyer
Mm-hmm.
to locate the National Guard facility in his district. But his district included that land
Yeah.
where that armory is, right there on a U.S. highway, US 301,
Mm-hmm.
which goes to another Army facility to the south and connects to an interstate. And, US 301, as far as I'm concerned, was probably built because of the fact that it runs through Fort Walker now, previously Fort A.P. Hill, another Confederate rename. But yeah, I mean, Steny Hoyer championed that, making that happen. And so, yes, now we have all of those Army vehicles. It's that National Guard armory right there in White Plains, ironically. So we were talking about White Plains, New York earlier. It's in White Plains, Maryland.
That's interesting. Yeah, White Plains, Maryland. It's kind of halfway between Waldorf and La Plata.
Mm-hmm.
But 301 is a very important road because it connects to the Potomac River Bridge over to King George County,
Exactly.
Virginia, which is the road to the former Fort A.P. Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And they also improved this road so much. You remember when we used to pass through Port Royal, Virginia, and it was just a little bitty bridge, but man, they built a bridge there that could carry
over the Rappahannock River.
Over the Rappahannock,
Yeah.
that could carry a division of tanks over that bridge and it wouldn't fall down.
Well, since I've lived here in Charles County, there are many, many times that I've seen convoys and convoys of military vehicles heading through on their way. I assume they're on their way at Fort A.P. Hill because it's where a lot of the National Guard units go for their annual 2-week training. Because as I understand it, the National Guard members do 2 weeks a year of training, and a lot of them from the East Coast, I must assume, do it at Fort Walker.
Yeah. Where in Texas did Andy go? I'm not sure. I wish I knew.
Something tells me that you told me a long time ago that it was Panhandle, but I don't know that that's true. That's just, a fact that's rattling around in my brain. I could have dreamed it.
Oh, thank you, Razveka. House is Republican, Senate was Democrat. So,
and remains Democrat until the new elected officials come in.
Okay, so to the extent that the that Pelosi had power and contributed to J6, that part of the power is out. And if they're going to pull something, it would be on the basis of the Senate being Democrat now.
Right.
Arab community to protest at inauguration. Okay. Yeah, they want to have some identity politics.
Well, come on. If I'm assuming that they're protesting the genocide in Gaza. I would hope so. I don't know.
I see so many Arab leaders now that are just coming out and saying, it's the Palestinians' fault. They can't get their act together. It's all their fault. And, these people have been flipped to the Israeli side, and it's just getting more and more obvious that this Greater Israel project is a real deal.
You know what? I don't care what anybody did. Nobody deserves to have their families and communities decimated that way.
Nobody. No, that's genocide, and it's
That's
just
genocide.
it's the same thing the Nazis did to the Jews and the Gypsies and the Slavs and everybody else. Terrible.
We had a wonderful Palestinian meal on New Year's Eve.
We did. We found a new restaurant. You know, Marcia and I, being whole food, plant-based eaters, it's hard for us to find a restaurant to go to, but we poked around long enough to find a Palestinian-owned Middle Eastern-style restaurant over in Alexandria, Virginia, and we got some falafel. But it was the sauces and the condiments that came with it were just fantastic.
It was so delicious.
Yeah.
So if any of you are in the Washington, D.C. area and looking for a good meal, vegan or otherwise, La Baik. It's LA''BAIK. Give them a little plug.
Garden Girl, John Kennedy, Louisiana, promises to get to the truth of New Orleans, and I hope he will. He seems like a good man when we listen to him speak. Very frank, candid, and I hope so. Yeah, Liz Cheney got the President's Citizen Medal. Does that tell you anything, you Democrats? Hello? I mean, if there's any of my dear liberal Democrat friends watching, please put in the comments how it is that you don't see that Liz Cheney is your enemy. How do you not see that?
Well, come on. You tuned in the other night to Wheel of Fortune, which I sometimes watch because I'm getting ready for Jeopardy. And there's President Biden talking about the attack in New Orleans, which I did not think merited. I mean, attacks happen and they're horrible, but I don't think it merits that kind of a press conference. But my gosh, he looks and acts so old and frail. It is shocking. Even in just, since the last time I saw him, he's a shriveled up old man. It's tragic. Have you seen the time?
It is time.
It's flown by.
Well,
so many good comments still to get to.
Next week, right here, same time, same place, McDuff and Marcia. And please make it a date. We'd love to have you join us back on next Friday. And
thank you for being here today. Thank you for all your comments.
And let's have a great year.
Yes.
Bye now.